Hello everyone and welcome to a new playthrough. It's time to do one of the best Pokemon generations, at least in my opinion. It's time for Pokemon Black on DS, but I'm playing it on a 3DS, that's why the aspect ratio is so wonky. Yay!
Well, technically the aspect ratio is relatively unchanged. You just get the borders, like on the left and right, so the resolution of the DS itself doesn't really change. The image just gets blown up a little bit.
Yeah. Man, this is such a strange generation to parse, because I feel like although Pokemon Black and White are generally well regarded now, at the time it was certainly a bit more divisive. Definitely not to the extent that, like, say Scarlet and Violet are divisive these days. But, you know, there are definitely people who are like, you can't have an ice cream cone Pokemon.
I don't literally had magnets in Gen 1.
Is this literally your first Pokemon game?
Okay, so
what are we doing?
There are a few reasons that people were divided on the first Black and White duology in particular. And that's because one of the main design decisions that the developers made, for better and for worse, was that they wanted to focus the region entirely on its own regional Pokemon, which means you had the same kind of Pokemon, you had the same kind of wild Pokemon curve you had way back at the beginning of Gen 1, which is like you have a bird and a rat and maybe a third Pokemon that pops up occasionally in the opening area. So it's not like you're getting a whole handful of Pokemon to catch all at the beginning. And it's rough to go back to that kind of Pokemon pacing.
Did you really delete a 700-hour file for this playthrough?
Yeah.
Oh my god, I'd never do that. I'd rather buy...
Also, fun fact, this Minchino here can be shiny.
The poor fucker who ends up after.
No, that save file.
Wait, hang on.
There's so many hours.
The random Minchino in the cutscene can be shiny.
Yes, it has happened before.
Okay.
So is there like, do you think like she secretly thinks that when she releases the Pokemon, realizes not shiny, it's like, I'm sorry, we're gonna have to do this over again. I really want that Pokemon to be shiny before we continue the lesson.
Okay, so fun fact: when we first planned on doing this playthrough, I was recording it, and I was recording white version because that's the one I own. I was going to play as the female protagonist because it's me, and that's why the female protagonist features in our thumbnail art. It was drawn ages and ages ago. In fact, it was drawn so long ago that we had to badger Roxy to get the original artwork without the titles so that we could change it to black version.
And thankfully, she still had
Love
it.
you, Roxy.
So, thank you, Roxy.
Thank you so much. Okay.
She fucking rises from the coffer, from her crypt. It's like, who disturbs my slumber?
After 10,000 years, I'm free. Time to conquer Unova.
But yeah, I generally like these two trainer designs because I think they're probably some of the best ones in the series. Unfortunately, they were given the names Hilbert and Hilda to be canonical.
Nah, they're black and white. I'm sorry.
I think there's a linguistic reason that they picked those names, and I'm fine with Hilda. Hilbert, on the other hand, doesn't sound like an adventuring Pokemon trainer. It sounds like a guy at the office.
I was gonna say, it sounds like an office jerk.
I get that they wanted them to sound Western because this region is based off of New York. Can't believe we're in fucking New York here, guys. The goddamn Yankees from...
You say Western, though. I don't know one motherfucker in my entire life that was named Hilbert.
It's kind of like when you find out that in the Japanese version of Final Fantasy VI, Terra was named Tina.
Yeah. Exotic to Eastern audiences, Tina in Western audiences.
Have you guys heard of the Tiffany Conundrum?
Tiffany?
So it's... Oh, God, I'm forgetting the specifics of it. But basically, the idea is that the name Tiffany sounds very modern to us. Like, oh, it's Tiffany. She's a valley girl from the 1990s who lives in California and likes shopping. You know, that's the kind of, like, mental image we would get from hearing that name. Even though the name Tiffany, spelt differently, but sounding the same, has existed since, like, medieval Europe. So, the idea that, if you have a fantasy story set in medieval Europe, it would be more historically accurate for a character to be named Tiffany than it would be for them to be eating potatoes, because potatoes didn't really exist in, like, medieval France or Germany. I'm probably misremembering some specifics in those details. You can Google it if you want to figure it, if you want to look it up. But yeah, it's one of those things where our imaginings of what something is like are often different than how they were in actual history. Oh man, look at that cutting edge Nintendo Wii that they have next to their system.
It's a Nintendo Wii. A copy of Twilight Princess is in there for no reason.
Oh man,
it's the GameCube version. Why is that?
So I just want to point out some context regarding this game. If you weren't around at the time, if you weren't playing games in the early 2010s, in the late 2000s, you might look at Pokemon Black and White and not think that graphically it looks all that special. But when you consider the time when this game came out, like right on the edge of the 3DS's launch, this is definitely one of the highlights, graphically speaking, for the original DS. And this game was effectively like the swan song for the console as the 3DS was coming in. Ignore the fact that the 3DS was initially a flop and it took like a year and a half for the 3DS to kind of get the ball rolling on that, and they had another Pokemon game come out in the meantime. Ignore that part. This was effectively meant to be like the original DS's last hurrah. And when you look at it through that context, this game looks fucking stellar. The production value,
animated sprites,
and the music too. This game's music slaps harder than I think any other Pokemon soundtrack.
You know, I love Gen 5's battle theme in particular. It's oddly epic for a wild Pokemon battle theme.
The trainer theme is one of my favorite, and the gym battle theme. I have some complicated thoughts on the gym battle theme. We'll get to that when we fight a gym. But yeah, like it's just funny to me to think that, you know, not too long ago, Pokemon was known for good production values, and nowadays it takes 5 years for a Pokemon game to have acceptable graphics via a content update for a system after the one it came out.
I don't necessarily know that they were known for good production values so much as they were always on the Game Boys, so they could get away with less good production values. But you know,
I would argue for the original Gen 1, yes. For Gen 2, absolutely not. The sprite work on Gen 2 is phenomenal. And I'd even say Gen 3 has really good graphics for the Game Boy Advance.
You have to consider the technology that it was made for. The sprite quality for Gen 2 on a Game Boy hardware is fantastic.
I feel like, you know, it's an 8-bit system, and they were so far in, and we were into 16-bit generations, so it's not really all that impressive to do decent 8-bit sprite work. And when we got to the GBA, like, you know, I like the GBA Pokemon games. They look pretty good, but they're not winning any prizes next to the likes of Golden Sun, you know?
Yeah, but when did Golden Sun come out? Because
fairly early in the life.
Golden Sun was pretty early in the GBA's.
Okay, then never mind. My argument was that.
I think apples and oranges, though. You play. I don't know if it's right to compare the two.
They're turn-based RPGs on the same system.
Yeah, he has a point there, John.
Yeah, no. I'm just thinking it's like, but you know, what I'm thinking graphically about the evolution of Pokemon, or at least comparable to other games at the time. Like Golden Sun, I guess it hurts that I didn't play Golden Sun because I didn't care for Golden Sun. And that sort of thing, but I thought back then Gen 2 looked amazing.
I think compared to anything else on the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, I'm struggling to think of any game.
Wait, why are we bringing up Gen 2 in terms of Golden Sun? I was talking about Gen 3 and beyond.
No, but the conversation started at Gen 2.
Well, yeah,
the conversation started at Gen 2.
I'm going to concede the Golden Sun point to you because Golden Sun does look spectacular.
Yeah.
But for Gen 2, I think if we're talking about Gen 1, took them 3 tries, but eventually the yellow sprites are good.
Yeah, but like, you know, Gens 4 and 5 were the generations that started doing the same thing that Golden Sun was doing graphically. You know, animated sprites in a pseudo 3D battle space, by which I mean Mode 7 floor.
I think when you compare Gen 5 to Gen 4, the difference is night and day. Gen 4, you know, don't look bad per se, but compared to a lot of other games on the DS, it's not anything special.
Gen 4 was an obvious case of they switched over to a new visual style, and they were still learning their way around making graphics for it. So some of the stuff was, reasonably good considering it was a handheld, and 3D graphics on a handheld were a fairly new thing at the time, but they really refined the engine that they were using for these games in Gen 5, and they made the
Are we talking strictly animations or sprite quality?
I'm talking about environments too.
Okay. Oh, environments, yes, I would agree, because I remember thinking that for the 3D backgrounds and the aesthetic, black and white vastly improved over what Platinum, well, just Gen 4 in general did. We're also including Heart Gold and Soul Silver, I assume, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
And also presentation, especially battle presentation. There's a lot more personality in the animations, and it's way snappier. Thank God.
Yeah.
No, yes, it is much. It is this generation is much fucking faster than Gen 4.
Yeah, I mean, granted, Gen 4 isn't as slow when you turn off battle animations, but like
the fact that you have to turn off battle animations though isn't that damning.
And to be fair to them, they did speed it up in Platinum a little bit, not enough, but they did do it. So
Platinum is inherently faster than Diamond and Pearl. Yes,
I feel like turning off battle animations though is a failure on the game's part more than anything.
I agree.
I mean, I get turning off battle animations if you're like specifically speed running the game and you literally do not care about presentation if it slows you down. But when you're playing naturally, I kind of want those things on. It's a visual medium. I want my visuals.
Yeah.
Served medium.
Medium? Man, you gotta get the medium rare.
We're not talking about this.
Medium rare visuals at the very least. Do they not give you the running shoes from the start in this game?
Nope, not until you get not until you get to
you get them pretty soon
round.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, you get them pretty soon.
It's like the running shoes in Circle of the Moon. Now that I think about it, they're so close to the beginning, you might as well just have them.
Fucking Nathan just rocking a pair of Adidas.
I want to say.
Oh, Nathan's the character in Circle
Lewis.
of the Moon. I was thinking like Nathan. What does our friend Nathan have to? Does he like Adidas?
Anyway, what I was gonna say is that I really like the rivals in this game. We haven't had rivals quite like these two since or before, but it's common now to have the friendly rival. It's common now to have a couple of different rivals that you meet along the way. It has not been quite so common to have a friend group right at the beginning who are both your rivals.
They tried to do that again in Gen 6, and it fell flat on its face because they were all way too nice.
There was also like 5 of them, which is too many for any of them to get any proper development.
Yeah.
My thoughts on Gen 5 have kind of fluctuated over the past couple of years. If you had asked me 5 or 6 years ago what I thought of Gen 5, I would have said that I loved the story and was divided on the structure and pacing of the game. I think I've flopped since I replayed this game about a year ago. I would say I think the structure and pacing of this game is outstanding, and the story, while they try really, really hard, has some stumbling points that we'll get through. Unfortunately, I personally think that the rivals are part of it. I think Bianca's done better than Sharon, but Bianca's arc also ends like halfway through the game and then she doesn't do anything. And Sharon, unfortunately, I think is a little lost throughout, which we'll get to. But I do...
you just say like unfocused, you mean?
Yeah, like he has an arc, it's clear, but there's not anything that's like meant to focus it. They try with like his conversations with Alder and stuff like that, but he doesn't really get the chance to like do anything or grow in any other way other than monologuing at you. So it kind of feels a little hollow in that way, unfortunately.
One of the things that I will say about the Black and White 1 storyline is that it has weirdly the same issue that I would accuse Fire Emblem Three Houses of having, in that there's a great through line and the overall story is pretty good, but it has like a main villain that is laughably, comedically, cartoonishly evil, and also there are characters in here and situations in here that had a lot of potential, but needed more time to bake to bring that potential out.
You know, I haven't played Fire Emblem Three Houses as of yet, but the way you described that, that's exactly how Pokemon Black and White 1 are. The comparison's like eerily similar.
It's hard to do something really in depth considering this is still a kid's game. So,
Fire Emblem 3 Pokemon.
But like with Fire Emblem Three Houses, the story and the ideas stick with you still, in spite of their flaws. Sometimes partly because of their flaws, because the flaws themselves give you something to think about in your brain after the fact.
Yeah. This is definitely one of the Pokemon games they've tried the hardest to create, like, a story with. I've found that, generally speaking, Pokemon does better with character-based stories and worse with scale-based stories, like Guy conquering the world, or, like, when they're trying to make the stakes really big, they tend to work worse than when they try to make the characters the emotional center, which is why, for example, in this game, N is a really compelling character, but Gestus, I love Gestus as a cartoonishly evil Saturday cartoon villain, but he's not a good villain.
I still hold to the opinion that he didn't need to be in this game.
He not in the way he is. Like, I do feel like there does need to be something like propelling N to make these decisions, because otherwise N's the kind of character you could have a reasonable conversation with and stop the conflict altogether.
Yeah, I mean, because I remember in my, because I have to stress, I have not played this game since my review, and that was a few years ago.
It was a while ago, yeah.
Yeah, and I clearly remember thinking that given how interesting I found N to be and how one-note Gestus was, even if it was in service to, you know, driving N to make decisions and that sort of shit, what I would want would require a massive rewrite, and maybe it would make maybe the themes of what they were already planting here would be too mature for Pokemon, at least mainline Pokemon at this time.
I mean, considering, you know, that later games, like, whoever's writing at Pokemon has some severe parent and guardian issues, I will say, considering when you look at the stories of this game, Sun and Moon and Scarlet and Violet, there's some issues they're working out. But, like, considering that the main theme of Sun and Moon is, like, parental abuse, I think that they could probably handle it with N here.
Well, look, you say that, but it's not. But it's a very appropriate line of subject matter for the Pokemon games to follow, considering that all of the games are about a kid breaking out into the world on their own to go and have adventures and find their independence. Basically, that's what Pokemon is. So getting into parental issues...
That's Bianca's story.
Essentially. It's the natural extension of the Pokemon concept, you know? But, you know, the other thing is, going back to Gestus, I brought up Three Houses intentionally because those who slither in the dark, the real puppet masters of that game's plot, are basically Gestus with more lore attached. They are cartoonishly scary looking, cartoonishly sinister, cartoonishly evil, and they get barely any development. You can find out a lot about them as a group if you delve into the lore, but the actual characters are hilariously wooden. And that's with let me see, we've got 4 storylines in the main game plus 3 storylines in Three Hopes now. That is with 7 storylines to develop them in. So they're probably worse than Gestus in a way.
Yes, I do think Gestus does have some redeeming qualities. Ironically, one of, like, his more interesting elements shows up in the Ultra Sun, Ultra Moon side story, where you realize that, he's just like this with everybody.
Oh shit! Like, I think he might have lost his internet.
Slimy asshole to everybody he works with. And also stupid enough to think that Giovanni would listen to him.
Okay.
Ted, we have to do this. Your Discord just chat the bed in the middle of that. You're gonna have to repeat your point on Gestus.
The funniest thing is that the actual recording that I'm gonna be editing with probably caught all of that. But we didn't.
Yeah, no,
most likely,
my
but
Audacity
we didn't hear
sounds
that.
fine. Basically, I said that, John, you're ugly, and everybody loves me.
Shit, I know that.
Oh, you picked Oshawott! Holy crap, we're talking about the video game. Oshawott's the best Gen 5 starter. Fight me in the real life.
Generally speaking, yes, it is.
Oh, wait, really?
I do like Oshawott. I'm also partial to the plant one, whose name I can't remember off the top of my head right now. This is one of the few generations where the third place, last place starter for me is the fire type, though. I mean, I don't mind Tepig. I actually like it slightly more than some of the other fire starters, but I don't like its evolutions.
It doesn't help that Tepig's the third firefighting starter in a row, and there's also other good fire type options for once, so you're not like forced to pick him if you want a fire type on your team.
Yeah, also, he only learns one natural fighting type move, so the fighting type does nothing for him in this game. You have to wait to Black 2, White 2 with Moo Tutors to get him anything decent.
I also believe that, like, if I'm remembering correctly, there aren't as many water types in Gen 5, or at least not as many early. Because that's usually the problem with the water starter, is water is, fun fact, a more common type than normal in Pokemon. There are more water types than normal types. Or at least there were. I don't know if Scarlet and Violet changed.
I remember one, I don't remember if it was Gen 3, where if you didn't choose the fire starter, you weren't getting one for a long fucking time.
Gen 4. Especially
was that Gen 4?
Yeah, and if you played Platinum, you basically had that or Ponyta, and that was it.
Okay, that might be what I'm remembering.
And I mean,
yeah.
So this game, I think, does a good job with Pokemon diversity just in general. That's part of, forcing yourself to make a new stack of 150 Pokemon will do that. It'll force you to run more new Pokemon out all the time. But yeah, no, this game, I love this game. This game's...
we still have plenty of commentary left to go.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we'll see you all in the next part of Pokemon Black. See you guys later. Bye-bye.